I'm Trench Reynolds. I write crime. The problem with covering crime for as long as I have is you start to think you've seen the bottom of the human soul. You figure the barrel's empty, the scum's been scraped. And then somebody like TJ Lane comes along and you realize you weren't even halfway down. It's the morning of February 27th, 2012, Chardon, Ohio. The kind of place where you know the weather by the smell of the air and folks still wave from their cars. High school kids are in the cafeteria eating breakfast, talking about nothing important. The sort of day you forget before it's even over. Until 7:40 a.m. That's when TJ Lane walks in, 17 years old. Not even a student there anymore. Supposed to be catching the bus to an alternative school. Instead, he's got a .22 caliber handgun in his hand and a shirt on his chest with one word scrawled in black marker. Killer. 5 students hit. 4 boys, 1 girl. 1 dies on the scene. 2 more die later in the hospital. The other 2 live, but 1 will never walk again. Lane doesn't stick around. He runs. Makes it about 2 miles before he runs into 2 civilians who convince him to give it up. When the cops get there, they find the gun, a knife, and the same dead-eyed expression he's worn all day. The media gets to work on the script they always use. Maybe he was bullied. Maybe he was pushed too far. But Geauga County Prosecutor David Joyce isn't buying it, and neither am I. Joyce tells the press this wasn't about bullying. Lane picked his victims at random. He says the kid wasn't well, but this wasn't drugs, and it wasn't revenge. Still, I've got questions. How does a kid like this get a gun? The answer's simple and infuriating. He stole it from his grandfather's barn. It had been there the day before. Nobody noticed it was missing until after the shooting. And because the internet is a cesspool, even in 2012, the conspiracy crowd jumped in. Turns out Lane listed David Icke, yes, the lizard people guy, as a favorite author. And while it sounds ridiculous to most of us, plenty of people eat that garbage up. I've even seen Columbine blamed on reptilian overlords. Some people really will believe anything. Meanwhile, Ohio dealt with a rash of copycat threats. It happens after every school shooting. The wannabes come crawling out of the woodwork to scare their own classmates. By May of that year, Lane's been declared competent to stand trial. His lawyers say he's got psychosis, auditory hallucinations, visual ones too. Funny thing about that, these voices never tell anyone to mow the lawn or volunteer at a shelter. It's always, go kill. I've heard this before. Ricori High's John Jason McLaughlin tried it. The jury didn't buy it, and neither did I. That story will definitely be a future episode of I Write Crime. Prosecutors push to try Lane as an adult. The judge agrees. He's now staring down life without parole. In court, when the arresting deputy asks if anyone upset him, Lane says no. So much for the bullying theory. His defense team still tries for bond and treatment. House arrest, they say. I said then, and I'll say now, you don't put a triple murderer on house arrest. Unless, of course, that house is a 6x6 prison cell. February 2013. Almost a year to the day. Lane's ruled competent, and his attorney enters a guilty plea for him. Even with that plea, he's still looking at life without parole. Sentencing set for March. And March 19th, 2013 is a day I won't forget, as I'm sure neither will the families of Lane's victims. The courtroom's quiet when Lane asks to address the court. He's wearing a dress short, buttons neat, cuffs straight. Then he opens it. Underneath is another homemade t-shirt. Same word as before. Killer. He looks at the families of the 3 kids he murdered, Russell King Jr., Demetrius Hewlin, and Daniel Parmator, and flips them the bird. Then he says it, the line that will follow him to his grave. This hand that pulled the trigger that killed your sons now masturbates to the memory. Fuck all of you. No excuses, no fake tears, just pure, naked contempt. The judge doesn't waste time, calls Lane exactly what he is. A remorseless killer who planned his crime and carried it out cold. Then he hands him a sentence of life without parole. Lane appeals, of course, says life without parole for a minor is cruel and unusual. The courts reject it unanimously. Even note in their decision that Lane was faking the hallucinations. For a while, that's where it sits, until September 11th, 2014. Lane escapes, walks out of the Allen Oakwood Correctional Institution in Lima, Ohio, with 2 other inmates, unarmed, still in prison clothes. A massive manhunt kicks off. Helicopters, roadblocks, cops swarming the area. 5 hours later, they find him, still nearby, holding a pitchfork. You heard me right. A pitchfork. Big bad school shooter armed like he's about to bale hay or storm Castle Frankenstein. After that stunt, they ship him to the Ohio State Penitentiary. Max security. He's in with the worst of the worsts. And from what I heard, he wasn't exactly a model prisoner. Got busted for having Pokemon cards in his cell. Real hard man. Can't do time without his Pokemans. I've covered more school shootings than I care to count. Most of them follow a pattern. The shooter gets caught, goes to trial, says they're sorry, and what they really mean is they're sorry they got caught. Lane broke that pattern, not because he's some criminal mastermind, but because he didn't care about playing the remorse game. He wanted to hurt people, and he wanted them to know it. He's not a badass. He's not an anti-hero. He's a coward who shot unarmed kids and got caged for life. And now, he's exactly where he belongs. Surrounded by concrete and steel, with only his own rotten thoughts for company. Thanks for listening. Not everything I write ends up on YouTube. If you want the full archive, 25 years of crime reporting, deep dives, and calling things exactly what they are, please head over to realcrime.net. That's where the unfiltered work lives. My latest post covers how AI is fueling false arrests for supposed school shooting threats. And over at my personal blog, you'll find my review of the 2025 movie Sovereign. Links for both and all my socials can be found below. And if you want to keep this going and keep the lights on, please visit patreon.com/Trench Reynolds. Every bit of support matters. Special thanks to my patrons, Mare and Trish. And yeah, I know, you've heard this pitch 1,000 times, but if you found this story worth your time, please do the usual. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. It matters more than you think, and it helps push the truth a little further through the noise. Until next time, keep an eye on your pitchforks. I'm Trench Reynolds, and I write crime.